It's more important to be a good person than a good musician. That should be the first thing. And I think it's got a lot to do with communicating with people.
Thanks, Sam, for joining these three questions. Sam Enning's a great bass player and composer, has produced lots of amazing music, and is also quite the chap. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to this.
Oh, my pleasure.
I knew you were going to be home. So the first question is, why do you have music in your life?
Why do I have music in my life? As in still?
Up to you.
Why am I still doing this?
Yeah, maybe.
That's a great question. Why do I have music in my life? Well, I feel like I didn't really have a choice in starting music at all. Like, my parents started me so young, when I was 4 years old, doing piano and Yamaha School of Music and all that. And it just, and like ever since then, I just can't really remember really wanting to do anything else. So I guess it's, it started that way as this crazy obsession and passion, and just kind of kept going from there. Just, it keeps throwing up questions, like, I guess it's a really kind of deep puzzle that just keeps like unfolding, and there's all these other new rules that you just keep discovering with every little piece. Every little piece of the puzzle that you finally figure out, it's like it opens up some more questions.
What are some recent questions that have opened up for you?
Oh God. It's kind of, you have the melody, harmony, rhythm, and I feel like I've been exploring those things for, as long as I've been playing music or, listening to music and trying to figure out how it all works. And now more recently, it's become more about sound, I think. Like, I'm getting interested in how people produce recorded music, like production, I guess they call it, whatever that means, production.
Yeah.
And, the way that something sounds can be just as interesting as the way that the melodic information or the harmonic information or the rhythmic information. So that's kind of been fascinating me more recently.
Yeah, and I think there's some albums I know that I enjoy listening to. I think it's because of just the sound of the recording, like, some live recordings. I mean, there's some great stuff at the Vanguard where it's just you listen to it and you can just hear the room, and you can actually, it's sort of like the spirit of the space is just as important as the solo or the melody or the tune. And, And
I was just talking with a student where I was kind of introducing him to the My Funny Valentine, the Miles Quintet, the complete concert. Do you know that one? And just the sound of that record is just the symbol. I think it's, once you've heard that album, that's the sound of like that particular time and place and space. And I think that kind of is just as important as all the other things, like all the other elements of the music that are happening in that. I don't know, you've done a bit of like specific location-based recordings, right? With that in mind?
Using the actual space as one of the, as one of the ensemble members.
Right.
We play all this music with no consideration really of the place that we perform it in. So, and that's where I kind of, listening to lots of the Vanguard stuff, because just the sound, the recordings in that room, it sounds like that room. And then when you go and listen to music there, it sounds like that room. There's something very special about, I don't know, the architecture or the shape of the room, it's sort of a shame that we don't consider it more in the places that we play.
Yeah, I think maybe it's got something to do with being, I don't know, like I guess I can only speak for myself, is, growing up playing an instrument and your teachers are talking about your instrument, right? Like the technique, the technique of the instrument, how to produce a sound, and things specifically regarded, things specific to the instrument. And you spend all this time thinking about that, like how does that work and how does that fit together? And then eventually you sort of go out into the world and you start doing gigs, and you're in these, like, you have to deal with acoustic spaces, and, as a bass player, you have to get an amp. Oh yeah, I need an amp. Oh, so I need a pickup. Oh, so what's the best pickup? And then you realize that there's this whole world of sound that you hadn't even thought of yet, having to deal with, playing on a huge stage outdoors with some guy who just wants to, it's usually guys, right? Yeah. They want to cut a hole in the bass drum, in the nice, vintage Ludwig, whatever, and like all sorts of crazy things. I think Tash had this story of like playing in a church, and that the sound person was like trying to stuff the hole in the bell of the clarinet, the stuff the microphone in the hole of the bell of the clarinet. It's like, no, and she's trying to tell the sound person, and then the sound comes out of the holes at the front, and so I don't know.
I've had someone mic up playing banjo, and they mic'd up like the fretboard where my hand was.
Whoa! That's already like
I don't know.
Miking up a banjo, really?
Yeah. That was his first mistake. But then, not miking it on the resonator. I mean, on the actual fretboard. It was like, oh god, nope.
Yeah, but I guess like going back to what we're talking about, like it's interesting because it affects the music, like the way that you play. If you were to play the banjo or whatever in a big reverberating church, you would play different things than what you would play if you were playing in a small club with just playing acoustic. So I think that's there's different music for different spaces, and that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, have you read that David Byrne book, How Music Works?
No.
Oh man, check out the first chapter is basically, it kind of goes through the history, the development of Western music, and how the actual spaces they were performed in sort of affected the development of modern music. So music in churches, it had to be, very modal and diatonic because it so much reverberation. So you couldn't have chromatic harmony because it'd just be a mess. Right. And then as the rooms got smaller and people were writing music for smaller spaces, sort of allowed, with less reverb, more chromatic and harmony sort of starts to develop. It's really, really interesting. Really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes me think of another thing that so I guess I'm listening to a lot of podcasts at the moment. And one of my favorites, there's this woman, Lynne Kelly. She's written a book. The name of the book escapes me, and the best bit about it is that she's a memory champion of like the seniors memory champion of Australia.
Excellent.
Anyway, so I'll get back to you.
Get back to me on it. Well, maybe we'll get to the second question before we forget what we're doing here.
Sure.
Yeah. So how do you make music?
Poorly. Next question.
Okay.
How do I make music? Oh God. I don't know, just do what anybody else tells me to do. I'm a bass player, That's kind of it a little bit. I guess, how do you make music? I mean, that's got a few elements to it, that question. I'll try to answer it in some way. I I try to when I'm making music with other people, I try to listen to them as much as possible. And I think that, there's not only is there all this shared musical language that we have to make music together, but there's also this just language of being human. It makes me think of something Adam Benjamin told me once, was that it's more important to be a good person than a good musician. Like that should be the first thing. And I think it's got a lot to do with communicating with people. So you need to be able to understand where people are coming from. If someone isn't the most experienced musician and they don't have all of the whatever, like the required chops, or they don't know this song, they don't know, maybe they're a complete beginner or whatever. It still doesn't mean that they don't have something to say and they don't have something unique about them that you can share in making music together. And if you take that sort of as a complete beginner person, like the classic thing is with a jam session where it's awful, like it's the worst music making conditions that you could ever imagine. And, people are just thrown in the in the pot together, and they, you have to make music. And so you have to relate to that person on a human level before you can make music. I don't know. That's a whole bunch of nonsense.
No, but I think the idea of being a compassionate sort of person, being willing to listen to others, listening to what everyone has to say, no matter what their opinion is.
Exactly.
Contributing, sharing, all those things. I mean, that's sort of playing with others is what it's all about, really.
Yeah, it's a door that swings both ways. There's a classic one where, I don't know, an example, like you feel like you're not being listened to. Like I'll just use the jam session example as a,
well,
as a case study.
There's lots of case studies within that
Exactly.
situation.
And it's an interesting, like you see it in like jam sessions with Irish jam sessions is a sort of different thing, like traditional Irish music and classical music sort of doesn't have that tradition. There's a little bit of it going on, but at large, there's not that tradition. But jazz has this tradition of the jam session. And I think that that's a place where you can get, a lot of, I don't know. All the colors of the rainbow. From the most experienced people. You see at the jazz festivals, all the like huge big guns get up to play, and then someone who's a novice or an amateur or whatever you want to call it gets up, and that's just this kind of standoff between the completely like, people talking a whole different language to someone who's just starting to learn how to pronounce a couple of words. And I find it that interesting that, I want to be in that moment and go, everyone's okay in this situation. The amateur has a place, the total, mofo experienced person has a place, and we can make something work together, I think. And you kind of have to bring that to most music situations. It's hard to keep that attitude, but I don't know.
That answers that. And then
but I also make music at home, just like,
just shred on the keyboard or something.
Just shred on it,
yeah. Just record yourself playing as fast as possible.
Just down along with that.
Awesome. So the third question is, what excites you musically right now?
I'm excited by your duets, actually. Tash and I have been playing through them.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah, that's been so much fun.
Do they work okay?
It's great. We're finding we never really played together that much because Tash plays classical, mostly classical stuff, written dots, and I, spend half my time making stuff up. So it's good to find some common ground. And doing that, and we're also playing the Cachao and Paquito duets. Do you know those ones?
No.
The Cachao. There's two albums, the Master Sessions, Cachao Master Sessions, and on both of them there's a duet clarinet with Paquito and Cachao playing bass, and it's just
awesome.
I've been transcribing that and learning how to play that, and I've been listening a lot to albums that I'm having to like mix and master, and I mean that's not really exciting me, but learning to play the guitar has been exciting.
Yep.
Yeah, playing lots of I think I saw Kate's interview. She's talking about playing second instruments, and that's been kind of exciting, like going through the dark YouTube hole of guitar.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh my god, like what a nightmare instrument to learn how to play. Like if you are just someone that wants to learn how to play the guitar, YouTube is just the worst place to get any sort of knowledge from, because you have to sift through about 1,000 dudes, mostly dudes.
Yeah.
On the like sitting there on their laptops, kind of going, you know, it's just like there's no information here. And I saw
there's so much no information.
There's so much no information, like with such a widely propagated instrument, it's so bizarre that there isn't this like, hey, this is where you should start, and this is.
Well, you should make some YouTube videos of where to start.
Yeah,
add to the knowledge pool.
Add to the knowledge, yeah. Just a bunch of mansplaining or whatever they call it. Yeah. Now this is how you really do it. Yeah.
Don't you can add those chumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I don't know. Yeah, but I did discover the on what's his name, Andre Segovia scales. Do you know that one?
No.
This can be the first installment in the in my YouTube guitar tutorial. But yeah, just the Segovia scales. It's just a bunch of all the major scales, all the melodic minor scales with all the fingerings, and it's just perfect system. Really well laid out,
awesome.
Well thought out.
Oh man, what didn't I know about that 25 years ago?
Because it wasn't on YouTube. You didn't have YouTube.
There we go. How did we learn things before? I guess we talked to people who could play the instrument.
Yeah. Wow. What a concept.
What a concept. You'd have to leave the house to be able to do that. Awesome. Well, thank you for the chat and for answering 3 questions. And take care.
Yeah. Good to see you.